All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Mary Beth McAndrews from Dread Central, and I am here today with Scott Mann, the director of new, horrifying, everyone who hates heights worst nightmare movie, Fall. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What an intro.
I mean, it's exactly it. This trailer alone was enough to make me want to vomit. So I that's a testament to the power of your movie already. But
Oh, thank you.
first quick question is, so you wrote this film with Jonathan Frank.
Yeah.
Where did y'all get the idea for this film? How did it come to
Uh,
be?
yeah, it was well. It was from a personal fear of heights. Really, we were actually on the top of a stadium filming a film in London. We were doing this kind of spectacle stunt on a more. It was a daft stunt for an action film, basically. But it wasn't actually the spectacle in front of us that was getting our attention. It was the fact we stood on this small little area, and there was a sheer drop very nearby, and it got us talking about how it's not really been taken into a movie as a singular item to really play out the fear of falling and the horror of heights. So that's what was the kernel of the idea of our own kind of fear of being there, and what was driving it psychologically, like why is it horrible, and really looking at that. And that kind of pulled us into the whole people living life to the fullest and kind of doing crazy things. It kind of ties into that a little bit. So that's what set off the kernel of the idea, really, is just doing like a pure horror of heights movie.
So are you scared of heights? I mean, I feel like we all
Yeah.
on our own have our own healthy fear of heights, but like,
Yeah.
are you would you consider
I think
yourself scared of
I
heights?
think I think I probably fall in the middle. I definitely am scared of heights, and I was just talking about the climbing. The first time I climbed the tower, for example, I had to pretend not to be scared because I was in front of the girls. So it was like I've definitely kind of overcome some fears during the filming of this. But there's a curiosity, like, why are we scared of heights? Like, it's a
Yeah.
psychological thing, and it's kind of, there's a reason our bodies try and preserve ourselves to step away from that edge. But that's what we have fun with in the movie. I think it's like we kind of like looked at that and kind of this is it ties into the thrill of a roller coaster ride. It's a similar type of thing. It's like you have a chance to experience something in a really kind of full way. And that's what we wanted to play with. Oh, hello, Nick. This is my sneaking into the conference room there. Not very discreetly. It's I didn't even know you were there until you did that. That's very good. It's that's brilliant. But yeah, so I really playing off that, basically, was the key, and kind of making the most of that was what we wanted to do with it.
So before you started filming, what was the research process like for you?
Uh,
Were there like
yeah,
climbers you talked to and stuff? Like, what was that like to kind
yeah,
of jump
yeah.
into that?
Yeah, I did a lot of that, and we also, like, I think we did a bit of a deep dive into. I think a film that really inspired me was Free Solo, with Alice
Oh
Orenstein.
yeah.
Yeah, and that's like, and what I noticed with that film was, I remember listening to a clip of it on the radio, right? And I remember having the fear of heights by listening to the audio, and I was like, why am I doing that? Because I haven't even seen the film. But I think it feeds in this thing of, like, actually, when you look at that and you look at other things, like the other things I looked at were like people who are hanging off buildings and crazy daft stuff on YouTube, right?
Oh
Which
yeah.
angered me to watch, honestly. But it's awful, right? And obviously we lean into that idea a little bit here, but really, I think the personalized part of whether it's a YouTube clip or Alex's film was that it put you there, and it was about the person themselves and being in with them and seeing it from their perspective. And that's what we ended up kind of rallying around with Fall. It's like, let's make this a perspective. Let's make it from the viewer's perspective. Let's kind of push them through that as an audience, like, be with Becky every step. Like, don't ever cut away from the tower when they're trapped up there. Kind of certain rules of form that really kind of put the audience through the same experience.
Oh, that's so cool. So okay, you talked about you yourself kind of climbing the tower. So I want to hear more about the actual process of filming Fall. How
Yeah,
much is
yeah,
actually like on a location? How much is,
yeah,
there's CGI magic happening? Kind of what is
yeah.
that? What was that like?
I've realized from a few interviews and things that I should just, had I gone along the tactic saying, "Oh, it's all CGI," and we did it in a blue screen studio, it probably would win some Oscar for special effects. But no, it's not that. We did it the opposite. We did it all on location, and it was a choice early on. Like, I looked at the different ways of making the film, and there
Yeah.
was, you of course have kind of a studio option there, but studios, well, for one, it's very hard to do like blistering hot light in a studio, like daylight stuff. That's the hardest
Yeah.
thing to get anyway. But then to really kind of capture the elements, like when you go up high, there are certain things that just happen with wind and light and things that are very kind of subconscious, but are important. and to kind of like fake that is very difficult. And so you have a choice of making like the 50 to 100 million, $200 million version of this movie, or you take kind of a crack team and some IMAX cameras and climb a mountain and do it on location. And that's what we opted for in the end. So we kind of very much leaned into reality. And we found this location after a lot of searching that was it was a mountain called Shadow Mountain. There was kind of like a little windy path up to it, which was very scary and so on. And you get to the top and there was a big cliff drop off, but there was enough room, just enough room to build a tower structure about 100 feet on the edge of that cliff, so that we were able to film the film for real, put the girls at the top of that and actually do all these shots. And then for the most part, it's all real. And it's only when you kind of go past a certain point, catch a bit of the mountain, that you need to paint out anything. So that was our.
Oh, that's really okay. I was like watching the movie. I'm like, how did they make a towel? Like, what did they do here to make
do
this?
that? Yeah, no,
And
it's an engineering feat. It's as much about like we had this great stunt team, great production design, like Ingrid and Scott, the production designer, and Cabal. We had to design the tower safely, so that kind of we were able to get safety wires like travel up the middle of the tower. There was a lot of engineering that went on to build this single structure. But weirdly, because the film is all based around this, we essentially like charge all those resources into that single point to get that right and get the location right and the tower right and all these things. And then we're able to kind of spend 4 weeks up there and film the film we want to make. So it's, you know, I think we had to kind of approach it logically, to really look at what was going to get the most kind of experience that we could bring to the cinema.
for sure. And then, so we have Grace Caroline Curry and Virginia Gardner playing Becky and Hunter, our two characters.
Yeah.
What was their preparation process like for this movie? Because I mean, not even like not just physically, but like mentally and emotionally. Like, how did you help like get them to prepare for such a role?
Well, there was a couple of ways. One was the heights thing, and I tried to weed out people initially by just telling them, showing them location maps and some of the engineering designs to kind of show them, look, you're going to be on the top of this tower for several weeks, and it's really high. And if you're scared, like, you got to tell me. And a lot of actors who would have pretended they weren't scared kind of were washed out through that process. Ginny and Grace, they were but they were honest. They didn't say like, oh, it's going to be a breeze. They were like, oh my God, that looks terrifying, but I think I'll be okay because I did this, this, and this. And we kind of, you know, and it was that honest relationship was the start and the building blocks of how we went about things. And I saw their chemistry read, and they wowed me from a performance point of view, seeing even on Zoom, like two key scenes that I'd kind of picked out that they were the characters, and it came to life, and they are partly the characters, really. You know, there's elements of them in there. The two beautiful, kind souls, both of them, and they're both kind of very warm, and I think they just worked really well together, like it'd been friends forever. And then the second part of it was just was how we went about the directing, I guess. Like, we ended up being aware that there was going to be a difficulty of communication, whether I'm in a crane bucket, which is where I spent some of my time, or I'm on the ground. I'm still a distance away shouting through a bullhorn, which is not a good way to be directing anyone. So we basically set up plywood, like I just literally cut like a small platform the same dimensions as that ledge, and put it in my yard, and then with a pole, just a piece of wood, and they came over, and we just worked in that environment and worked out the movie together in a very close set environment. And then we knew we had each point, we worked it out that way, and then when we went up, it was a case of doing it, you know.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was, you know, solutions, right? It was during COVID, where like it was hard enough to get a film cut, so it was all these things were these little challenges and problems, but it was fun to solve them. You know, it's like that's one of the fun of filmmaking, really. Is stuff. Yeah.
And is that one of the Vulture friends from the movie behind you? I just noticed.
I tell you what, so you know, I like it's like this terrible. Now this guy is from Lionsgate's kind of promotional press event, but it's actually probably better than any of the, like, we had one fake one on set, and the fake one we had was not good. It was barely hanging together. It was kind of spray painted feathers in a polystyrene ball. But that one is most excellent. But no, the real Vultures were actually probably the hardest thing to kind of wrangle and to get on screen the way we got them, because we couldn't really fake it because it was so close. So we had to get Hollywood Vultures in, and they kind of they're hard. Yeah, they don't take screen direction, frankly.
So you hired like actual vultures and did what you could with the actor.
I will tell you now, they're probably the most expensive acting item on the budget, because you have a whole entourage, and obviously you have to take care of them. It's like there's a whole process. There is no getting around the fact that you have to, do this thing properly. So yeah, they were difficult, but they delivered in the end, so it was fine. They bless him. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so, I mean, Fall is Coming is a pretty unique addition to the survival horror genre. I think of this film like in terms of like maybe The Descent and other films like that. What kind of other survival horror films do you really enjoy and kind of maybe thought about or drew from when writing and directing and creating Fall?
Well, Descent. I love the film Descent. It's actually like, and there was, there's an element I'm sure you're aware of. Like, there's a story element, because Neil's a friend of mine actually, and
cool, yeah, because I definitely was drawing parallels between the two. Grief,
absolutely,
and just
yeah, and there's because there are kind of parallels to Descent in it, and I kind of like, we jokingly called it Ascent at one point, just as a joke.
That's so funny. I also have made that joke with people before.
It's like, but no, I think look, one of my favorite films for sure, Descent. The producer James, he made 47 meters down. We again jokingly called this 47 meters up. These are the on-set jokes. But no, I love, like, I think Jaws would be one of my favorite films I could pull out, right? And I think that Jaws, in a way, as a kind of blueprint of filming something for real and capturing that reality so it holds up over time. I think, we kind of did a similar blueprint with this. It's like, okay, like do it for real, like struggle through it for real and try and get that. And I think that, so I think for me, I feel like cinema, there's an option. Cinema's changed in kind of, or how we view things has changed. Sometimes much for the better and sometimes much for the worse, honestly. And I think there's been a closing gap of actually having smaller movies like this have the opportunity to be experienced theatrically. And we went into it kind of saying, okay, this is our stage, let's use it to the maximum and make a real kind of cinematic experience. And that's really what we pushed for. And I think it's, I'm just grateful it's going out in all the cinemas going out, and hopefully people get to enjoy it on the biggest screens possible, because that's what we wanted from it. And I think I would hope, what I would love to see, honestly, is that we get more movies like this that kind of bridge that gap from the small to medium space, from filmmakers, rather than unoriginal content that's just kind of cookie cutted out as tentpole. So I think there's that would be my hope in the longer term, that people, we get more of this kind of stuff in our theaters.
For sure. Oh, me too. So my final question for you is, if you could schedule your perfect double feature with Fall, what movie would you pair with it?
Wow, that's a hard one. I don't know. I'd end up just picking my favorite film, which is probably Terminator 2. So which has nothing to do with Fall.
Just because you like it. I mean, again, it doesn't have to be related if you just want to put Terminator 2.
Yeah, that's my favorite. or RoboCop is an influential kind of film that I grew up on and watched too young, but it was great and made a great impression on me. I think, I would always put it as but then it might be a disappointment not being up there with the lofty heights of those movies. But no, I think I think that would probably be my answer to it on a personal preference. But yeah, I think it's I don't know. This is funny. Like, someone said to me about this cinematic experience that we try and put people through, and that how, like, Top Gun proves, like, people that there's a cinematic experience, right, that you can enjoy as an experience, which is very different than kind of a lot of things that are out there. And I think it's like, someone said about that being kind of like a Disneyland theme park ride, and this is more like a Six Flags experience in a similar way, of like that stress you get put through. But I think that's, that for me is why we go at the theater and we kind of enjoy it. And I think that the trauma that you kind of get put through on that ride, it's an escape from reality. And then at the end of it, there's actually kind of a completion of why you did it and why you weren't it and why you got over that. So I think, I think that's that experience. I hope people kind of can get going through it and watching it at cinema.
For sure. Well, Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
No, it's a pleasure, mate. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. It's lovely. Thank you. All right. It always feels weird to say bye.